Good evening. Welcome, 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 welcome. It is a wonderful Monday night. It feels like a rare Monday night. It took us till we finally got to this point, I think in the past month and a half, where all three of us get to hang out together, which is just kind of crazy.
to th-
Sad,
to think about. Yeah,
appreciate it.
how it has been a while, hasn't it?
It
Since
has, it
May.
has.
Yeah,
I think it's been like the beginning of May or maybe even April before all three of us. But
Yeah.
way back in the
but
spring. Hello.
something like that, definitely. But thank you to everybody for taking time to join us. Obviously, if you're here, you're watching, throw your names into the chat. Because John's here, he'll figure out the ones where you're dropping, even if you're not on the main YouTube channel.
It's like we can say hey to Mikey. Mike's with us. DJ Mikey Mike.
Hey, Mikey.
There we go.
Yep. So
There we go.
thank you guys for being with. So guys, I've been in the wedding doing weddings here for the last few weeks. You guys have been doing weddings for the last couple of months because your wedding seasons are like much longer than mine because we're about ready to start bringing the snow shovels out in about 2 weeks. But the music, the kind of the go-tos, I still see on Facebook, people who are getting ready to start going out and doing weddings, or they've only done one, and they're like, "What are some of your go-to songs?" And we talked about these in different times in different shows that we've done, but I really kind of wanted to discuss specific go-to songs that we use, and kind of the reasoning a little bit behind why this is a go-to and what kind of defining the song just a little bit, like what type of an age group it kind of works well for, why it's a significant song. Because I think that people who don't know all of the standards, and for those of you who are kind of wondering, where do you find a list of kind of the wedding standards? I'm going to put a link in here from one of our sponsors, from DJ Event Planner. This is their most requested list. And we've gone through this list and talked about this before, but it's basically all of the people who have requested across the DJ Event Planner system. They compile that into a list, and you can see what are some of the most popular songs in that in those different genres that they have done. This is great, but as I'm looking at the songs, that there's some songs that are in there that are like and there's some songs in there that I think are way lower than they should be because of specific reasons that. And those are the things I want to kind of get into of the whys, because I think that even with working with my sons and getting them into the DJ thing, it's tough to explain to them sometimes of why when you play Def Leppard's "Pour Some Sugar on Me," why you want the album version and why it's important to play that very first "Step Inside This Way, You and Me, babe." There's a reason why you want to play that at times. And if you've never don't understand that, you end up, trimming it and try to beat mix into the middle of it, and then it's just, people are like, "Oh, I just lost my, my enjoyment." So that's my thought. So it could be a couple of weeks ago when Dan and I were chatting, we talked a little bit about Mike Walter. He has a Mixcloud account where he's been putting a lot of his mixes.
I love it. Yeah.
Have you ever gotten to check out any of his mixes that he did?
Yeah. It comes out every Tuesday, sometimes Monday, sometimes Tuesday. And I'll say I'll be working on emails and just listen to it just to see, well, oh, that's kind of cool. Or I like that blend, or I liked, maybe I wouldn't have done that one,
Yeah.
But it's like a New Jersey crowd, right? So Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi sometimes does not work in Middle Iowa. But I get that it works for his crowd out in New Jersey.
And as those are a couple, obviously he plays quite a bit in that. If you listen to over and over and over again with different ones, and as I've been running, I've been listening to a lot of Mike Walter, and I got to say, Mike makes a good mix. My times in my running is a little bit better when he plays really bad mixes, and I say that, but when he's playing kind of an upbeat party and he's playing the kind of things that people dance to, and then he gets into a kind of a punk rock type night or whatever, it's like, wow, I come back and I look at my time and it's like, I didn't run a very fast split on that one. Oh yeah, that's when that song was on, and it's, not a good running song. But a couple of them I wanted to talk about starting in that era is Mike plays quite often DMX. The song from DMX. It is
Y'all gonna make me lose my
yeah.
mind.
Yeah,
Up in here.
up in here. Is that a song that you guys have played? Or is it something that, I mean, we've all played it at one point in time, but is it a kind of a go-to for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I've got a crowd of 30 somethings in 40 somethings, oh yeah.
Mm,
Like it's one of those I like to use it because I don't if you listen to Mike's mixes, he's got a couple like transition mixes that he uses with it, and I think those are great. I like to just slam it because of the way that starts. And it's got a great so you can come out of a lot of different things. You can come out with some faster stuff because it's got that high energy type of feel. So even if you're coming down in your BPM, it's got that high energy type of piece. But yeah, it goes and it goes over well. Like that's the other thing. Like it typically goes over really well, even compared to other songs that are similar style, similar age, and similar BPM. It tends to do better.
Do you
okay.
short edit it or do you play it all the way through?
Um, I don't short edit it exactly. Excuse me. So, um, and this is me just kind of like reading way too much into it. Sometimes I'll use it a little earlier in the night, and if I do, I actually have a couple of cue points where I'll skip the entire like first verse and jump into the second because the content in the first verse, if you've got a sober person who's a little bit older and they hear some of the lyrics, they might get a little like you're playing this now
And
type
you,
of sound.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'll jump over that and then as soon as he gets past there's like a bridge part, 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way. Once he starts going into that, that's when I dump out. I get through that and then I'm out. I would not recommend jumping out too much before that because that tends to be um that breakdown piece that's in there tends to be well received as well from the people that typically respond to the song. They want to hear that.
Hmm.
I have a couple
Which is
drip
another
mute.
reason why I like to jump over the first verse because it gets me to that spot faster.
Interesting.
I have a couple drip music services that are kind of short edited, like a minute 40, minute 45, and I kind of roll. I do play it, but I just kind of short edit it right into it. Um, yeah, it's a great song. It's definitely a floor filler.
Now that's a particular track that I haven't played since it came out and we were playing in the bars.
Really?
It wasn't one that was on my regular playlist at all. So this past weekend, we because of hearing Mike do it again and again and again, and I'm not saying this in a negative way. It's just that it is a tool that he utilizes in his. So Michael, I've been emceeing Michael. My son has been DJing, so it's like okay, we're gonna try a Mike Walter set. Do the DMX song, Party Up, and then follow it up with Get Low. Those are the two songs he mixes together quite frequently. So Michael goes in, he listens to it a little bit. He goes, okay, this is where I should get out. Well, that's exactly where Mike gets out of it. He goes the verse, chorus, verse, I believe, or is it the chorus, verse, chorus? Anyway, but it was after the second chorus, and then of course he went into just basically it's like, are you sure you haven't listened to Mike doing it? Because that's exactly where he dropped it, and it really went over well. I was surprised. It was not. I mean, yes, I played Get Low numerous times over the years, and that's probably like 50% of the weddings get played that song. But I've not played the DMX track, or certainly hadn't played them together like that. So that was one for me. That was a somewhat of an eye opener. Didn't think about that one. So. Cubbie, that's another one that kind of fits into your wheelhouse as one of your kind of go-to songs that
Uh, I'm gonna go easy. I'm gonna go easy. I'm gonna go Mr. Brightside by the Killers.
okay.
That's just that's a lay down. It's every single time. People just go crazy into it.
So now what kind of when you're talking, let's look at the audience that would appeal to when you see this type of audience, and now define that audience that you're like, yeah, this is going to work tonight.
I, I usually played after 10. But I did this last Saturday and the father of the groom was out there
Hmm.
just going, just going hard with it. So I think it's a song that it could be not sure, not surely multi-generational, but you'll have some people out there with it. But it's a little later one in the night. Like at 10, like for me, it's like an after 10 o'clock when I'm looking for those anthems for them to bounce up and down to.
Mm-hmm. Um,
I like it. I like it for that same reason that you just mentioned. It's a good sing along, but it's not. It's got the energy to it, right? And so like you want it to where they're still kind of like into it, and you're still trying to ramp them up, and you're still trying to like utilize that energy they have. They haven't flipped over to the point where they're too drunk to like, put sentences together. So you get that aspect to it, and yeah, it works great to just kind of rejuvenate.
so let's talk
What do you
about.
follow? What do you follow up
There
with
we
it,
go.
Dan?
Yep, that's what I was headed to.
Ah, sorry, sorry,
You're
John.
good.
I
No,
didn't
you're
mean to
good.
jump. I'm
You're good. You're
sorry.
good.
So so it depends on my group. So if it goes over to that extent, I will typically go into like a Blink 182, maybe all the small things. It's
Yes.
short enough, right? So I'm still down in
Yeah.
that BPM. I don't really exact try to beat mix it because I'm horrible with the punk rock, pop punk. There we go. Beat mixing. I'm just horrible at it. So I don't really try and do that. But I'll go into all the small things if I really want to just kind of switch up my BPM and get out of there and go a little bit faster. Sometimes I'll do like a Smash Mouth All Star, or oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it now. It's right in that same BPM 104. I forget. But if I want to bring it up high, I'll go to Stacy's Mom. Those kind of ones are a nice follow through with it that are not as like also like Blink 182 is kind of like still like that same Killers level. But if I'm looking to kind of see, do I have this pop punk group or do I have, well, they just like the Killers Bright Side. I like to keep that second song short
Sure.
because if they respond great, now I can go ahead and hit another one. If I've lost some energy, okay, now I can be out of this and go in a different direction.
I usually
John,
have
what do
that.
you follow with?
Yeah, go, John.
Um, and that's a usually I usually it's difficult from the standpoint because I usually have that at the end of a set. So it's basically the pinnacle of that moment that I built up to that, and then from there going into a completely different jump out of it. So I really haven't have something that come out of it. Uh, Again, going kind of after listening to Mike do it, the one that he my own worst enemy from Lit
Yeah.
is one that he utilizes in there. And it's like, okay, so we are going to play with that and try that combination. And unfortunately, this past weekend, this was a crowd which, demographic wise, age wise, it should have hit with this crowd. And neither of them, or both just kind of flubs.
Oh,
And
well, you
it's,
know you're having a bad night then.
yeah,
If
it's
Killer,
like,
if Brightside doesn't work, you know.
yeah, it just was, there were a few people singing along to it, but it
Yeah.
just wasn't. And yet, as Cubbie, you mentioned earlier, that those people in their 30s and kind of pushing into their early 40s, this is kind of should be in that wheelhouse, but yet they were those ages at 25 to 40, and yet it didn't land. And I have a
Too
theory.
early?
I have a theory on that, and we'll get back to that here. But the Lit side of it, is that something that is on your playlist?
That was the 104 that I was trying to remember.
Ah, okay.
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always followed up with all the small things, like because mostly like dance it's a very short one, and it's got the same just because it goes right hard into it, and they're singing right along. It's another anthem.
And it's interesting because everything that we've talked about as far you guys songs you've mentioned and things, our version you hear these in Mike's sets that he's playing, and if you guys go check these out, mixcloud.com/DJ Mike Walter, you'll be able to go out there and kind of follow and listen to these. If you want to study a different DJ's playlist, not so much their style, although you do hear his microphone and there's things you can pick up from his microphone, so it is a learning experience all the way around. But it's kind of cool to hear another DJ play because we don't get to do that very often. But hearing him play those, and yet he's only playing snippets of it. You mentioned edits that were a minute 30, minute 40, whatever. Many of these he's taking the album version and he's getting to a point and dropping into the next tune. And you can hear occasionally where you can hear that this is kind of a different mix, or it's got a reed drum behind it or something with some of the tracks. But that short, quick mixing is way more prevalent than what it had been here for sure, in the upper Midwest, in Minnesota at least.
Well, I tell
Well, and
my
one of
brides. Oh, go ahead, Dan. I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say to Mike's point with the way he does that, for those of you that are wondering, like you don't necessarily have to have the quick edits like Hubby was talking about, right? You can have a longer edit if you make use of your cue points. And I think that night he even talked about doing that, where he
For sure.
has those different spots along the song that are, you know what, this song is going great, but I can see it start, I don't want to go much longer or I'm going to lose them. So I'm going to drop out here. Or you know what? This song was really great. And if I had a short edit, I'm kind of stuck because I'm out, and I would really want this to kind of breathe a little bit more. So, like, there are some advantages to having those quick edits, but I think if the better option is for you to set up your cue points in such a way that you can get out at some of those earlier spots, or go longer if you want to.
Flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I say with like Love Shack, man. If you make it to Bang Bang, you've gone too far. I mean, you've lost them. You've lost them at that. You know what I'm saying? At that point, I mean, in September, like after, I think it's like 2 minutes. It's just the same repetition. So then it's easier, like I said, know where your key point is and then go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have a short edit of September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. I kind of mix out of my own.
Sure. Yep. You get to that point and off you fall. You go. Dan, what's a song that kind of is a go-to for you?
Should I lob up the easy one here?
Yeah,
Neither of you
I
went
did
there
it.
yet.
Yeah.
Usher, yeah. I mean, like that's one of those. It's cross generational. It's gonna work for everybody. I have yet to play that song and not had a response. Whether it's a school dance, whether it's a wedding that is full of 30-year-olds, or whether it's a wedding that's full of 40 and 50-year-olds, like it does not seem to matter. And case in point, right? Coming off the Super Bowl, here he was, performing there, ended with that song. Like yeah, it's right there for you.
And that could be an early night song too, for like you said, because it's so multi-generational for the 40s and the 50s that you could pull it off at 8:30. Pat, not you have to wait till later to play it. Sometimes we wait till later in the evening to play a little bit more of that harder booty shaking stuff, where early in the night you could play it and still get away with it.
And
And
that's probably
there's
been my biggest change with that particular track in the last couple of years, is that it went from being the 11:30, in that last half hour, to it's now probably in the second hour of the night, just because by then I've gone through and I've done the little snippets of everything, and now we're getting into the first. I'm going to say a harder dance set, or more of a aggressive dance set, and that seems to be a good piece to use right in there.
and there's so many places that you can go from there, because it is a little bit cross generational. You can decide to change up your style, your genre that you're in, and it'll still carry. Or you can stay in the A-Town sound and go into like a Get Low. If you've got the right group, you can go into like one of the things I used to mix it out of. I used to mix out of it and go into Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song, because they were singing, they were having a great time, and you go into that and it's like, oh my gosh, like you get them singing again, like just belting it out. So there's a lot of directions that it affords you to go, and there's a lot of great songs right around it that, slower or faster, you can mix relatively nicely. And that ending piece, I mean, you get the last 20 seconds, you can throw an acapella over it. You get the previous 20 seconds, and it's kind of just a little bit more call and response type of piece in there, so you can blend over it. So there's a lot of directions and mixing possibilities with it.
For sure. I like to usually follow it up with little Debbie Boone.
Yes.
I mean, isn't this what everyone plays after Usher? Debbie Boone?
I don't think I play
Okay, fine.
that after anything.
Oh, well, maybe I need to rework my music list a little bit. I'll get on that a little bit.
You Midwest DJs, I'm telling you.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit older. And granted, Usher's was it seems like it's a newer song, but it's like almost, isn't it 20 some years old now?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's even go older than that. And again, I want to kind of flash back to one that Mike Walter plays, because we had this my son Michael and I had a discussion about this, because we were going to do an ABBA song. What's your go-to ABBA song? What do you got, Cubby?
Dancing Queen.
Dancing Queen would be the easy one. Take a Chance on Me is another good one.
And
Um,
and Mike's the one that Mike plays is Gimme Gimme Gimme. And
Yeah.
he does it many times throughout the different playlists, and he obviously has success with it. This is actually ABBA's been one of those little weird bands that, as a kid I grew up and we listened to the album, and I literally probably wore out the album back when I had it, because that was one of the first ones that I had that mom and dad would actually let me play the songs by myself. So yeah, that was utilized quite a bit. Um, I just I've never had a super ton of success, even with Dancing Queen, on the dance floor. So it's always been kind of an anomaly for me that I love this stuff. I mean, I enjoyed when you go watch the musical, it's a great experience, and every song, but I've not had that success on the floor. So I was wondering if maybe give the Man After Midnight type of thing, if I was missing something with that, or if it's just that Mike's he plays it enough, and he sets it up however he sets it up, or whatever he does, if it's just successful for him because of how he does it.
I would like to see what mix you were listening with that. And the reason why it was last year, I want to say this song was a TikTok song. And so
Okay.
it was everybody and their brother was using it. It became one of those that young generations were asking for it. Old generations were happy you played it. Like it was one that really worked well for that. It's fallen off. And I've used it once or twice just to kind of see, and I definitely don't get the response that I did last year
Interesting. Okay.
from even the group that I would not classify as TikTok users. All right. Now they may, but I don't think they're going to be viral with the stuff they're watching. So for it to come around again, I think he's having luck with it. I think it's more of what he's using to set it up with. Um, and obviously the one downside to anybody's mix is we're not seeing the response that he's getting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
We don't know what the floor has. Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Uh,
saying it's bad.
so we did, in our case, we did Dancing Queen, and it went over actually pretty well. I was surprised at the disco had gone over as well as it did. Um, and then it became a question of, what do you follow that up with? What are your kind of, when you guys are kind of working in that genre? Where do you fall with following that up?
Go ahead, Cubby.
no, I was gonna say, go ahead, Dan. Because
Neither of
usually
us wants to
dancing,
answer.
yeah,
This is a tough one. This wasn't a tough one because I will say this: I don't use it as part of a disco set, right? And that's one of the things I love about listening to others DJs is because there are DJs out there that are very skilled in sets that I never would have even thought to put together. Probably don't even have half the songs that are in it. Disco is one of those, right? I probably have some of it just because I've collected over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, I use it more of a mainstream song that's popular, right? It's a throwback song. It's an old school song, however you want to view it, that's popular. So I will use it, and then I'll do a complete right turn and drop something like, believe it or not, I'll come out of the Dancing Queen and drop like Party Up, right? Because you've got them on the floor kind of responding to it. Again, this is a lot of times a girl anthem that responds well, and then you throw something like that at it and they go nuts. I do have a redrum, and there was one, I think I've done this like twice, where I came out of it going into another type of girl out or anthem, like a Wilson Phillips Hold On, or the one time I went another direction and went Mariah Carey Fantasy. Worked somewhat, but I like that harder like hit to like really just kind of right turn it out of that disco.
You kind of,
yeah.
yeah, you definitely explained what we did. Go ahead, Cubby.
I did it. Yeah, I did it. I usually, it's usually my first set, and I kind of like, I'm fishing at that time, finding stuff that works. So I'll do like a Shake It Off or something right after that. I don't find a really good song that blends with it well. At the beats per minutes and the mixing key, I can never find a song that I like that mixes in it. So I'm like, Dan, I'll do a right turn and do like a shake it off or something, just kind of keep, it's just to go fish and see if how that worked out.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the anthem, the sing along. So we went, and again, this is the discussion that's going on. He's like, "What should I follow it up with?" It's like, we could go back to that Spotify playlist. We talked about this on a show a few months ago. The songs that make girls get
White people turn.
white people turn, and then Michael's like, "Well, I think I'm going to do a Gwen Stefani song," and it's like that's exactly where I was thinking. So yeah, he followed it up with the Hollaback Girl, which has that kind of that heavy kick there at the beginning of it, and it's kind of similar to what you were just describing for us. And it went over very, very well, which is ironic because that went over well, but yet Lit, the other ones, the Killers didn't.
I have my thoughts on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to speculate now? Because you said we're going to come back to that.
Yeah. Let's actually do that. We're about where we should be. So, why do you think that some of those early '90s kind of the pop punk rock type things were a complete flop when I had 2/3 of my group were of that era?
It's overplayed at this point. I think the nostalgia piece of Mr. Brightside is just not hanging the way that it was 3-4 years ago. I think we're starting to transition a little bit. Like I've noticed every 5 years, there, maybe not even 5 years, but every 3 years, we're kind of getting a shift, right? And it should be right because you're going to fall within that window of the couples.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got a lot of couples, I think that are like going to all their friends' weddings, right? And they're going to everybody's weddings that everybody and their brother. They've been to like 6-7 weddings this year. They've heard it a bunch already. So it doesn't have that same nostalgia feeling that it did. So you're getting a response, like some of us are getting responses, but I'll say my response has not been consistently strong the way it was. And so that's my feeling that why that early 2000s pop punk is just not working on a consistent basis is because I think we're starting to transition out of our prime couples are transitioning out of the age group where that was their music.
That's an interesting thought, and that I definitely could see that. The working theory I put together is back when the Earth was created, and the cooling and oh no, too far back. Let's go back to the '90s.
Wrong theory.
Many of these folks that were at that wedding would have been very young in the '90s, but they would have started when the first music that they would have been hearing would have been a lot of that '90s country. We're in rural Minnesota. At that time, radio stations is all they had, and they would have only been listening to many. I mean, you could find 10 country stations on your dial on your radio, and maybe one top 40 station. And adult contemporary didn't even exist. It was the oldies station of Cool 108, which had a DJ by the name of Bill Herman on there at that time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, I don't know. So there was. And they considered themselves a country crowd. It was blue jeans and boots and a hat for this. So what my kind of theory was is that they grew up in that '90s time frame. And when we were doing high schools and things at that time, we were doing a high percent of country music at high schools even. I mean, there were many weddings where it was 50% country and 50% everything else. Maybe sometimes 70% country and 30% everything else. So there was a lot of that going on at the mid to late '90s, that I was wondering if in their households, if these kids, again, when they would have been kids in the early 2000s, is that if their parents are still holding on to that country, and because at that time, the music that was coming out was so different from what they were hearing in the '90s from Alan Jackson and Garth Brooks and Shania Twain, that they really didn't start to get into that to the level. They were still holding on to that '90s country, because Any Man of Mine filled the floor. Colin Baton Rouge filled the floor. John Michael Montgomery sold, filled the floor. I mean, they were crazy for that. I was, is it those songs just aren't played as much? I know, I play Any Man of Mine pretty much at every wedding I do, but is it
Right.
because those aren't played as much, but they know them, but they aren't played as much, or were they just holding on to that because the other type of music that went over was basically anything from 2010 newer. It's like we had this hole in the 2000 to 2010 with this group that just did not, beyond Usher and a couple of the big the big hits there from the that era, but it was some of the others just didn't quite do what I thought they would do. So
I
yeah.
probably would have stayed. I probably hearing what they responded to right there with the country and that. I probably would have stayed away from the pop punk personally, unless it was requested or unless somehow it made its way into or I got some close to it and they responded well. It just to me that seems like a very different ends of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they're responding to older country and then they're responding to newer stuff. You're right. That hole in the middle seems like there was a lot of maybe transition within their life, right? They were transitioning. So you had some that were maybe still hanging on to some of that country. You had some that were making that transition, which is why you maybe got a couple things in the middle, but not having a solid everybody type of experience because that shift was happening during that time,
Mm-hmm.
during that 10 years.
Yeah, we had a better response with Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, which was a requested tune, and they, everybody knew it, everybody sang along, and they multi-generational hit that way. Typically, that's not when I play at weddings because it just there's just some songs that I don't play because of more lyric, and not that there's anything bad in the lyrics. It just doesn't seem to be a romantic-y, lovey wedding type song. So I don't go
Like
there.
Goodbye Earl.
Yeah, well, no, that one's actually that one's I use that as an instruction manual. Hey, if
Yeah.
there's ever just listen to the song, it'll tell you what to do. Go.
Get a black eye. Yep.
Yeah. So that was just it was an unusual kind of a mix of how things were coming together for that. And then Michael ended up getting into a 90-minute set of between 125 and 132 BPM for about 90 minutes, and they absolutely loved it. And it's like, are you going to
It's a
slow it
long
down pretty
time in
soon?
one
No, I'm
small spec.
just keep going, just keep going.
All gas, no brakes.
Yeah, and it worked. I was surprised. There would be a couple of people leave, and there'd be like 3 or 4 more people come on, and then a couple of people go get something to drink, and a couple more. It's like, yeah.
But since we're on that, how many slow songs do you guys play tonight? Because I sometimes, I get past 9:30, I'm not slowing it down.
I've obviously I slow it down more than Michael does when he's kind of taking the lead, because after a point in time I just kind of let him have the reins and just step back and bebopped a little bit, and whenever I need to make an announcement, hey, get off the dance floor, you drunken person,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But other than that, and when he doesn't slow, I had to literally go and tell him, we need to slow it down. It's been an hour and a half. And he did drop something in, and all of a sudden, Journey and all the couples were out there again.
Dan, what about you?
Unless it's requested, one, maybe two a night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
I
I'll
bet
go 4 hours and not do a single slow song.
Wow.
I'm with you. I'm early in the night, but if I get to 9:30, I'm not probably slowing it down.
No, there's a couple times where I'll do it if I'm like just kind of really struggling and want to reload my floor, very similar to what you said, John, with the idea of playing something slow, you bring the couples back out. But I've gotten to a feeling or I've gotten to a different type of mixing set, and a lot of times I'm just feeling like the couples are saying like we just want to
You
dance,
want to have
like
a
we
party?
don't
Yeah.
want that slow aspect. We want the club type of feel, and not necessarily that it's all club music, but just the idea that we're just dancing, all night long. Um, and I've asked them, I've asked a couple of my couples, right? So what's your impression on slow songs? Like, what are you thinking? One an hour, one a night? And I've had some that say, you know what? Once we get started, we don't want to slow it down. Now, if somebody requests, okay, different story. But if we don't want to slow down until our last song,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And I think some of these people just go with friends a lot. Like they just have like big friend groups and nobody's really dating. So then they don't have somebody to slow dance with. So then
Yeah.
you put a slap a slow dance on at 9:30 and they left the dance floor. And then if you got the bar in the other room, then you have to battle that. You know what I'm saying? You don't want I just want to leave the dance floor.
Hmm.
So that's why I keep going.
Yeah. We did, I think, 3 or 4 slow songs the whole night, up beyond the spotlight dances. And the photographer was going to be leaving at 7 o'clock, and we were at 5 to 7, and we were ready to basically start the dance. And the photographer was like, "I'd really like to get a picture of a bunch of people on the dance floor. What can we do?" And so we did the invite the guests to come and join the bride and groom out on the dance floor type of thing with a slow song. And their little I don't know 30 by 30 dance floor was wall to wall people, because all of the couples got up and came out, and they had some great pictures and such. But it's like, so boys, when you need to fill a dance floor early in the night, this is how you cheat. And you get the bride and
Well,
you tell the bride and groom that, okay, I need you on the middle of the dance floor because we're gonna do a slow song, and I need you guys to make sure you're out there.
that's how I start my night after the
Hmm.
mother son is an all couples dance with a
Yeah,
slow song.
exactly. Yeah, and that's typically how I would do it. This particular one, we did all the spotlight dances before the meal.
Oh,
So yay, that was fun, because then you don't have that 20 minutes to a half an hour of okay, now we're going to do the next spotlight dance, but oh, somebody just went to the bathroom. Well, let me tell you a joke. There was this one guy, you know.
I stage my spotlight dances. I'm like, look, we're doing like I find the father of the bride. Like, look, you bat second. Don't go anywhere. When you see us do the first dance, don't leave the room because you bat second. And then I'll go find the mom. Okay, mom. It goes father, daughter, mother, son. You bat third. Don't go anywhere on me. Stay close as soon as we start this. And so I don't have that problem. And so for the newer DJs, you should set everything. But when you're getting ready to do something, make sure father's ready. He knows he's batting second. His jacket's on. I'm kind of bad about that. Like when we get ready to do the toast, I say, put jackets on. Because once we get our pictures back, we can't put our jackets back on.
Hmm.
So I'm like, and the bridegroom really appreciate that. I'm like, best man made about whoever's talking, dad, put your jacket on. Because once we get our pictures back, we can't put the jacket on. We don't want to ruin that moment.
Hmm.
So everything is like I said, and I set every moment before it happens.
And
That's a Randy Bartlett thing.
that's a great thing, and that's what my process is. But it's amazing how that bladder calls 30 seconds before the end of that last song, and it's like, you're kidding, right?
And y'all don't have indoor plumbing out there, do
Oh
you?
heavens, no, no! They had to go outside, and they chipped a hole in the ice so they could go and Oh, it's tough. It's tough. But we made it. We made it.
Pine
By the way,
cones.
while we're on the topic of setting it up, the extra kudos point that Cubby left off is assuming that dad and mom are still together and mom and dad are still together. Don't just tell the person that's dancing, but also tell the spouse so that they can also look lovingly on their significant people that are dancing. So
Yeah.
they're not off in the bathroom and miss that dance.
Yeah.
So
So that's why having a conversation with everyone, all these special people, because it's like, oh, you mean I missed it? Sorry. But
Yeah.
that's okay. They weren't wearing their jackets. So you really wouldn't have wanted to remember to know. So
You see the picture with no jackets on,
yeah,
you're totally
you'll
fine.
be like, that sucked. I'm glad I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's bounce over to Ice Ice Baby as a song. Invariably, it's one of those, if I don't go to, someone's going to request it, and it's been consistent for a number of years that has been the case. Um, are you guys? Is that still something that's on your playlist on a regular basis? And secondly, if so, do you play the whole thing?
No and no.
Okay.
It's not my rotation. I mean, I might drop it once every 3, 4 weeks. Reading the crowd. Once again, if I
Yep.
got an older crowd, bride and groom, things are going well. Um, you know, that's hitting well, but never play the whole song.
partially and mostly. So so I've gotten away from using it on an every week type of basis. And it really kind of, if I see my couples really responding well to some of the older, pop hip hop, then I'll throw it in. For the longest time I always did play the full song. But um I've kind of gotten away from that. I have a short edit that I came across.
Hmm.
It takes it from being a 4 minute song down to like 2.5. So it's not a short edit, but it's faster than, it's quicker rather than doing the full song. Most of them, probably don't even notice that I shortened it up just the way that it is. It's one of those songs that's kind of repetitious. It's a little hard to get out of if you're using the full version. Like I've just noticed like there's a hard because of the way the lyrics are going and the way the beat's going, you just can't go, I'm gonna drop out because it's just the way that feel is.
Yeah,
So
one rolls into the next so quickly with that track.
yeah. So a short edit really is helpful there because it ends it for me.
Mm-hmm. Um, kind of sticking with that. Another song somebody was talking about, and of course, this one that I play quite often is "It's Tricky."
Oh yeah.
That one still goes over really, really well.
Do you play this whole song? Go ahead.
I sometimes will. This is one of the few songs that I'll probably play to the point of where it gets into that kind of drum at the end, and I might get out of it where there's a in the video it's where the helicopter starts up or something to that effect, and then that's where I will get out of it, which puts it in there at just 3 minutes or just short of 3 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark. But I like to try to let the one song is finishing and have it so that they can start to hear the and the beginning of the other, so I can overlay them. And it doesn't. I don't have a specific that I lead into it or a specific that I lead out of or mix out of it. Is because with stems capability, anything can go, and it's like, okay, there's an 8-beat loop there, an 8-beat loop there, go boom, 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 lay them over top of each other. Now bring the vocal in this one, get out of that loop and let it go. And then this one, I'll just eject. Between stems and the sampler and such, it's awesome.
I take advantage that there's an 8-bar instrumental chunk in the middle, minute half, minute 45, maybe 2 minutes in. That's about where it's at. And I did this. This was a mix I was doing, and I do it a little too frequently, I think. And then Casey, who often tunes into us, he had a one of his reels up, and I was like, "Hey, did you steal that from me?" And I think I don't remember if he did. He said no, but it was too coincidental. I will take that 8-beat piece and overlay the intro for Flow Right Low.
Mm.
It fits perfect. Like the intro where it's, there's the beat, but it's not really a dance, but it's that piece that you gotta have right in the beginning of Low for them to sing along to. It lays perfectly. And then very similar as John to the stems, I take the vocals out. I'll keep the tricky part going while the low then is kicking in, and then I'll fade them out as I go. But that's a fun one to do.
I gotta practice that one. I gotta try that. I go to the raw. When he goes like, there's a part in there he goes raw, and I like big butts right into it, like right into the raw. And I slam it, and then it just then I roll out a bit that big butt after Baby Got Back for like a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Baby Got Back. Actually, is one of them I wanted to hit here. Used to be, didn't play it for it's 1993 I think when it came out initially. So it was there, and then it wasn't, and then it was there, and then it wasn't, and then it was there, and then it wasn't. And I think we were there 2 years ago. And now this year it's been, every time I pulled it out, it's flopped.
I haven't played it in a while.
So you're in the it wasn't.
Yeah, very much so. It's just, it's not getting requested. It just doesn't come to my mind immediately when I'm mixing, even when I'm up in that speed. It's just one of those things that's just like, I haven't really felt the need to grab it and play it.
When I use it?
Oh no, I'm afraid.
Right after cocktail hour, it's like you're opening the dance floor. It's like,
nope.
Yo, come on there, ladies, bring that big things out. Let's go.
I'm setting up the anniversary dance. All the married couples, come on out. All the married couples, and then I'll hit I like big butt, and then he start like everybody's like looking at me like I'm setting on this loving song. They go, just kidding, and then I'll hit like my song for the anniversary dance. But it makes them laugh because it's so unexpected. Like if you've never been to one of my weddings before, but like I said, you just play I like big butts right before the anniversary dance. You set this lovey body. You got all the married couples out there. They're all ready to go. and then you hit it and you let it play for like 15 seconds, and their looks on their face is hilarious. Like they're like, and they're laughing and they start going, I'm like, okay, you guys are having fun tonight. But here's the song. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. And I play the song,
That's
and
right.
it works. It's kind of funny.
Grandma starts twerking and then breaks a hip. There.
Yeah, you gotta watch it.
No!
So you got insurance.
Yeah, exactly. You got to make sure you have that liability insurance.
It's cheese, it's corn, but trust me, it just breaks that mood. Like I was like, oh, gotta go do the anniversary dance. I mean, I've seen this before, blah, blah, blah. Then he drop I like big butts, and it just makes him laugh.
We got time enough. One more song. One
Uh-oh.
more that's kind of a go-to that might be slightly overlooked. That works really really well for you.
Oh,
Go
you're
ahead, Cubbie.
asking us?
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish you would have told me ahead of time.
I just did. If you want me to go
What?
first, I can go first because I've actually
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got a twofer. There's two slow songs that when I do go to a slow song and I want to do something and I don't want to do one that everyone has heard. There's a group by the name of Gem, GEM, and they do a version of Amazed, and it's a great little ballad that I utilize because it's the McCartney one, but it's a slower version with the female voice, and it's really pretty. And then Can't Help Falling in Love from Haley
Reinhardt.
Yeah, thank you. Those are my two. If I'm going to do a late slow song that's not the last one of the night, I would probably hit one of those two. They both have gone over really well because people know the song, and yet it has that kind of a little bit more of a modern feel, and with the female voices that it kind of covers the bases really really well, I feel. Okay, about your time, guys. Go.
Cubbie, go for it.
I'm known for dropping like a High School Musical sometimes.
Ooh.
So like depending on the age of my bride, right? So everything's all age conscious. I like to drop like a high school or like a Sabrina Carpenter, like just something like way back in their memory, just makes them come all the way forward or whatever. And like, oh man, I forgot all about that one. I wouldn't say there's one that's a go-to, but like a High School Musical, like Danny said, you drop Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That I mean, am I going to start dropping that, seeing how that goes? Yeah, just something. There's something Dave Lander always says: take a chance, and see what happens,
Oh, he likes
and
that
do
version.
something.
He likes that song
Yeah,
from
the
ABBA.
ABBA. Yeah, he loves
Take a
ABBA.
chance, I guess, yeah.
But yeah, drop something like clear, like that's within their genre that you think would work.
Something I'm starting to get decent response with, and this wasn't on my list, but as we've been talking, it kind of came to mind. Um, Macklemore Can't Hold Us.
Hmm.
That was one of
Oh,
those that when it was popular, it was like, yeah. And very similar to John, like what you said, like you got away from it for a while. Um, and I was mainly using it like at school dances, and then decided to throw it in for a couple weddings. Um, definitely want your crowd to be a little on the younger side, right? But I think if you've got a good solid like early 30s, late 20s, you're gonna have some good success with that. It's been surprisingly well working. Um, the downside is it's one of those weird kind of BPM anomalies that it gets really fast. So I'm like slamming in, I'm slamming out. Like I'm just there's nothing I'm trying to do mixing with it.
I got one. Every time I touch my Cascada, that
Oh,
one always.
there was another one I was going to mention that Mike plays a lot. Murder on a Dance Floor.
Oh,
Yeah. I
no,
I
I just can't.
I've just
that's got to be, yeah, it's got to be a New
I think that's
Jersey
a
thing.
Jersey thing. I
it's
really
got to be a
do.
Jersey thing because that one. I mean, after you've heard it a dozen times, because you're listening to Mike's mixes quite a bit, it's like, oh yeah, now it becomes an earworm thing, and then I wake up in the morning and it was in my head, and it's like, oh, get out of there! What are you doing? Put something back in there, like the Barney theme or something good. But so anyway, I just was funny.
Yeah. Every time we touch Cascada, it's always a fun one.
Yeah.
And I love it, or I by Iconopop.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that one. Michael had the last two weddings. He dropped that in there, and oh my gosh, the crowd just went absolutely crazy, to the point it was probably easily a top 5 song crowd response wise, if not one or two. It was yeah, really strong.
And Mike posted this, and it's true. I hit it again this weekend. I'm sure you guys have too. Shabuzi's Tipsy Bar at the bar.
I haven't played it yet. I just really my wedding last weekend was kind of, or on the 8th was a little bit different. I don't know if that would have worked there. And the ones I had before, I was just like, I just I like it. I just
Promo's got a
haven't.
redrum. Promo's got a redrum of it,
Okay.
I might have to look at
and
that because yeah, we dropped it Saturday night. And again, thinking a country crowd because they liked their ceremony was all newer country artists. Everything that I saw in advance and they're in our conversations, they were like, we're a country, country, country. And yet in that 90-minute set that Michael did that was in the high BPM, there wasn't a country song dropped in there. Every time we dropped a country song beyond Man, I Feel Like a Woman and those Calling Bat Rouge and the other one, it didn't fly. The week before, which wasn't a country crowd, they did better with some of the newer country stuff. But we didn't play Shibuzi because I knew of it, but it's like, yeah, I'm not feeling it when I listen to it. It just didn't seem. So
it's the chorus that gets you. It's the chorus that gets them.
I probably need to spend more time so that way I can look like I'm enjoying it more because again, as I meant, with even going back to the Gimme 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 from ABBA, if Mike's animated, Mike's having a good time with it, and Mike's singing along with it, our response of how excited we are about the song can rub off on other people. So an average song that people know, but they're like, yeah, but they see the DJ up there and just going hype and going crazy and singing along and inviting them to basically join in and have fun type of a thing can make a big difference. And again, as Dan said, we're not there to see either side of it, Mike's side or the crowd side, to know exactly how it's all coming together. Right?
One thing I would encourage you to do real quick as we're wrapping up here, check out the reels. Just follow a bunch of DJs. It's the easiest thing to do, of the ones that are posting their reels online. So you're not going to necessarily get the full mixes like what you're seeing there, and don't look at those for transitions. But I very similar to like Cubbie mentioned in Cascada. Every time I touch, right, that's one that I just recently saw in somebody's reel and saw the reaction and went, oh my gosh, I've been forgetting about that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, very similar, you're going to run into some of the same ideas, just to get those ideas of something else. And in those cases, you are seeing the response, right? Because they turn the camera on and we're seeing like the whole crowd singing it and going nuts. Like that's another thing to kind of pull from some of those mixes.
Mm-hmm. It's a good study. A good study. Let's see. Next, DJNTV.com/chill. Chill room. The guys will be in there in a little bit, and you can join them. They're going to be doing recording a little session, and then after that, it's kind of an open mic night to kind of talk and have some fun. And then tomorrow, we got some videos dropping. Tomorrow night, it will be a flashback for a Ben Stowe show because this is our kind of off week on Tuesday. And then the following Tuesday, I think we're going to be on live again with Ben and Big Daddy. Big Daddy will be coming to us from the Marquee Show next, not tomorrow night, but the next Tuesday. So he'll be there, and Cubbie will be there. He's going to be coming to us live as a live correspondent. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
It's raining.
Yeah.
What's that Al Roker thing?
Yeah,
What's weather, Al? It's raining.
It's raining. Yeah. Well, that'll be our next Monday night show then. It'll be great. So yeah, we got a couple more videos. Check those out. You can find us on YouTube and such if you are watching it on Facebook, and that's where all those videos drop. So take us home, Dan.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hopefully, if you're new and you're like, oh, those are some ideas, I can take those and I can use them with other ideas that they said. Obviously, run with it and enjoy yourself. And if you're a tried and true and you're like, oh, I forgot about that song, then try it. Give it a shot. See what may happen there, right? Have yourself a good one. We will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.